Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on cybersecurity basics for government contracting. My name is Anu Sood, and I'm a senior marketing consultant here at CCC. Now, before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about CCC. CCC is a Government of Canada Crown Corporation that is focused on helping Canadian businesses build successful commercial contracts with foreign governments, and that includes state-owned enterprises. Now, over the past 5 years, we have supported over $7 billion in contracts between Canadian companies and other governments through our government-to-government or G2G contracting approach. Now, to build G2G contracts, CCC offers many services to Canadian businesses, and that includes our Global Bid Opportunity Finder, which allows Canadian businesses to search on government tenders around the world. Our advisory services, which are available for those who have solutions that governments buy or are currently working with a foreign government on a specific project and would like to speak to one of our advisors on how to move ahead. Our international prime contractor and our US DoD prime contractor services are our G2G contracting services, and I recommend that you visit our website at ccc.ca to learn more about each one. Now, regardless of who your customer is, having good cybersecurity hygiene is always good for business. And in today's webinar, we're going to provide you with a roadmap on how to get started. So today's presenter is Arnold Villeneuve, who is a Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Provisional Assessor and Instructor, as well as an EC Council Certified Cybersecurity Technician. Now, in addition to having various Microsoft and Google certifications, Arnold is an instructor and an author. Now, in today's presentation, Arnold will provide you steps you can take for basic cybersecurity hygiene. As well, he's going to provide you a quick update on some cybersecurity certification programs that are coming for the Canada and US. At the end of the presentation, he'll provide you some resources that you can use to move ahead in your cybersecurity processes, and he's going to answer some questions. So feel free to enter them in the Q&A or chat section, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. As a reminder, we will be sending a link to the webinar recording and summarize some of the material discussed today in an email, probably in about a week or so. So with that, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Arnold.
Well, thank you very much, Anu. Welcome, everyone. We're very happy to have you here. I know your time is very valuable, so thank you again for taking the time out of your day to be here and hear our talk about the importance of cybersecurity. I'm sure everyone that has been around for some time now has seen the ever-increasing term cybersecurity used in the press and in the media, both in print and online. It's becoming more pervasive all the time. In fact, just this morning there was an article about a particular cybersecurity hacking group that is really using spear phishing techniques to the extreme across many other countries in the world. And, as an employer myself, I would really hate to put one of my staff members in a situation where they inadvertently, click on a spear phishing email link and end up spreading ransomware throughout the company. I'm sure that person would feel really, really bad. So as a business owner, I take the responsibility to protect those people, my people, the staff and consultants that work with me, very seriously, such that they have a heightened awareness of their responsibility within my organization to maintain a certain minimum level of cybersecurity hygiene. So the real definition, or the definition of cybersecurity, is simply the practice of protecting computer systems, the networks, digital assets, and the unauthorized access, attack, damage, or theft of data. So, and this also includes protecting your people. And certainly by approaching the use of security frameworks, which there's a number of them, and going through the certification process can institutionalize cybersecurity awareness within your organization so that you can achieve a greater level of defense against these bad actors that are out there. The cyber crime business is an organized crime business. You have companies that will basically build the ransomware software. They will not be doing the attacking. They will lease this software to other companies. And those other companies are basically organized crime. You've probably all remember within the last year here in Ottawa, we had the Children's Hospital get a ransomware attack and by one of these organized crime units. And the group of people that actually built the ransomware software gave the Children's Hospital the keys to unlock the ransomware. And one of the unwritten rules is this organized developers who basically build the ransomware software and then lease it out to organized crime. They tell the organized crime groups, leave the hospitals alone, but some of them don't listen. So knowing that, their organized crime is involved, this is just going to continue to perpetuate. And it's not just gangs that we know well of. It's countries that are participating in these as well, and people who are employed by these countries. And the attacks are getting much more sophisticated all the time. There's a difference between phishing and spear phishing. And spear phishing is where the hacker takes the time to really, really hone the email down so it looks like a really legitimate email. And that is being done more and more often. I myself, over the years, have clicked on links I shouldn't have clicked on, and because the emails look so good. So the primary goal here of cybersecurity is we want to put in place some safeguards that will help us protect the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of our information. The CIA, we call it, is kind of the tricord of implementing safeguards within an organization so that we can ensure the information is not getting leaked to somebody that doesn't have the need to know, doesn't have the need to see it, that the information is not tampered with either at rest or at play, and that the information is always available. So we're not susceptible to denial of service attacks, for example. So the CIA is kind of those are the three founding legs of putting a good cybersecurity program in place and institutionalizing it throughout the organization. So what is it we're trying to protect here? Well, we're trying to protect ourselves certainly from cyber attacks that are becoming more increasing every day. We don't want our data to be leaked out. And unfortunately, 80% of the data breaches are caused by internal people, either through ignorance. They don't know what they're not supposed to click on. They don't know what they're not supposed to do, and or malicious intent, people who are not happy with where they're working, for example. But the reality is we're very good at protecting our networks from the outside. We have firewalls on the outside perimeter. We put demilitarized zones in place, but we're not as good as doing data loss prevention internally. That's just now starting to come to the fore with services like Azure Purview that allow us to really classify all of our data, structured and unstructured, and then put policies in place that stop the breaches from actually happening. So if a document is marked as top secret, somebody tries to email it, the data loss prevention policies will stop that from happening. Identity theft is a huge problem. You may actually know somebody who's had their identity stolen. So how do we, keep that private, keep that information about people's identities private? And how do we teach our people, how do we make our people aware that, what an identity theft attack looks like? Social engineering, there was a very famous hacker in the States, Mitnick. He said social engineering was the first thing that he does as he tries to attack a particular company or organization. He said it's the easiest way to get information out of people. So again, awareness training, security awareness training of what social engineering looks like is really critical. I mean, I've worked at our Defense Department many, many times over the decades, and at headquarters at 101 on 2 occasions, I was walking in the door. I put my pass up, walked in the door, and somebody tried to tailgate me, and I stopped them and said, pointed to the pass ID and to close the door. And then that person just walked away, right? They were trying to tailgate me to get into the building. So that type of social engineering and type of attempts to take advantage of people who just don't want to be a problem, we need to change that behavior, certainly. Vulnerabilities, software has vulnerabilities all the time as they come out with new releases. Vulnerabilities are discovered and then start to be exploited. And a lot of the breaches that happen, a lot of the data breaches that happen are as a result of not patching our software fast enough. A lot of the attacks, once we dissect what happened, and I'm a senior incident response specialist with the government as well. And one of the things we find with these breaches that happen is the patch for the vulnerability that was exploited was available for 6, 9, 12 months, but it just wasn't applied fast enough within the organization, and that left them vulnerable. And then, of course, there's the ransomware and the malware that's continually morphing into more vicious implementations that do more damage that we have to protect ourselves against. And usually the fastest way to do that is to apply the security patches as soon as they come out, right? And this requires a lot of resources. Security is not free. Security is not free. I mean, you can either have it more secure, you can have it easy to manage, you can have it easy to use, or you can have it cost less, right? But you can't have all four. So security has costs associated with it, and we have to recognize that so we can make the investment and elevate our security posture, right? And the best way, in my opinion, to do that, first and foremost, is through security awareness training for everyone in your organization. There are companies out there that provide a solution where you can simulate phishing attacks, safe ones, internally within the organization. So as people are clicking on these links that they're not supposed to, you can send them back for more security awareness training until those number of bad clicks starts to go to nil. So when you have a security incident, you should know that the Government of Canada has an incident reporting system that's held through the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, where I'm currently a security assessment and accreditation specialist, providing consulting services for them, evaluating ITSG 33 security framework, security controls for organizations like Microsoft, Google, AWS, SAP, OpenText, and so on. So they've got a really good reporting system there, and they've got a lot of resources that they can bring to bear if you do end up having a cyber attack. And the sooner you get that reported, the sooner you can find out what other resources are available to you. So cyber hygiene is a term that has been kind of prevalent over the last few years. Another one is cybersecurity institutionalization, making sure that everyone is aware of what their responsibility is to maintain a certain security posture. So with cybersecurity hygiene, basically, we're trying to maintain a level of preparedness and daily rituals that we do in order to ensure that we maintain that level of security, that security posture, day in and day out, and that we don't expose our soft underbelly, as it were. So this laying of this solid foundation basically means we have these measures that we put in place, and we have these rituals and routines that we put in place, and we follow them on an ongoing daily basis. And there are cybersecurity frameworks that will help us do that. The current one that I've been working with since 2019 is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. And I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. In May of this year, our Defense Department announced that they are also adopting a Canadian version of the Cybersecurity Maturity Model. And that's going to be very important, because if you're a contractor who works on Canadian or US military contracts, you're going to have to become CMMC, or the Canadian Program for Cybersecurity Certification. You're going to have to become certified within one of those programs if you want to continue to do business with the US Defense Department or the Canadian Defense Department. So if you are currently a subcontractor for a US prime contractor, you're going to have to achieve this certification probably by the end of 2024 or early 2025 in order to continue to participate in these contracts. So my recommendation to organizations right now is you want to start getting this idea of institutionalizing cybersecurity within your organization sooner than later. And this is a process that you're going to have to pay for, right? To become certified. The burden will be placed on the organizations. But in the long run, as I mentioned earlier, security is not free, and it's often not cheap either. But the net end result is that if we get hit by ransomware, we could go out of business. In fact, there's statistics that demonstrate a company that's hit by a disaster, if they don't recover within 7 days, there's a 50-50 chance that they will not be in business a year from now. Now, that doesn't necessarily apply to a government department, but nonetheless, the impact can be significant, much more significant than getting your cybersecurity hygiene institutionalized within the organization. So the cybersecurity maturity model started out as a 5-level model, and they've recently modified it to 3 levels when you talk about CMMC level 2. But CMMC level 1, I really, really liked, because it really communicated this idea of elevating your cybersecurity hygiene maturity levels. And so it starts first with, are you performing the right things you need to do to maintain a basic level of cybersecurity hygiene? We're going to talk about what that is in a little bit. And after that, so I would come in and I would do an assessment of an organization and say, show me that you are doing the basic cybersecurity hygiene practices. Show me that you're doing it, okay? And then if we wanted to go to the next level, I would come in and I'd say, okay, show me that you have documented what it is you're doing, right? So that it's right there in documentation, that all the staff and all the people and all the specialists that are going to be performing these duties are actually performing them. And then if we want to move to the next level of certification, show me that you're managing this process, that you are budgeting for training for your people that are actually doing the procedures that you've documented, okay? Oh, and by the way, the documented is things like, show me your policies, show me your procedure documents that are identifying what kind of security you're going to put in place and how you're going to do it, like how you're going to perform that task. Managed is, are you budgeting for training your people so that they know how to do their job better, to better protect the organization's assets and keep them confidential, keep them with integrity, and maintain their availability. The next level would be, are you reviewing your processes to maintain this level of cybersecurity hygiene? And what are you planning to do in the future to be proactive about improving, not just maintaining the level you have, but actually improving it? And then finally, the optimization part. Are you actively monitoring? Are you taking lessons learned, for example, and continually optimizing your security practices? So you can see how this maturity model is, as you go through each level, your organization is effectively developing a more mature view and approach to the whole idea of cybersecurity. So what is basic cybersecurity? And the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity has their website has some good, really good information on this, about what is considered basic security hygiene. They have some checklists, they have some templates that you can download. And I strongly recommend you check out their website. I mean, that's why that group within the communication security establishment was put together. It's to help both government departments, but also small, medium, large organizations and companies within Canada to better protect themselves. So take advantage of their tools that are there. They're all available for free, and it'll save you a lot of time, you and your team, as you put your cybersecurity hygiene in place. So a couple of things, protect your perimeters. Obviously, we want firewalls, demilitarized zones. As I mentioned earlier, we're really good at protecting ourselves from the outside. What we're not so good at is protecting the inside, making sure that, principle of least privilege is implemented, separation of duties are implemented, data loss prevention is implemented so data doesn't leak outside the organization. Segment the networks. If you've got a public facing side, you want it on its own separate subnet, and then having subnets protecting internal aspects of the network. Continuous monitoring, right? We should have a system in place so that we can monitor for attacks. We can monitor for different security related events, and then have those events sent to a security operations center so that people are made aware of what's going on and then can take action to actually rectify the matter as quickly as possible. And your policy documents and your procedures should talk about how you're going to do that. Right? Policies are going to talk about what systems you put in place to monitor, and then how you're going to deal with incidents when they occur. Everything should be encrypted, in transit, and at rest, basically in storage. So if you're using a cloud provider, that happens automatically, and they automatically take care of rotating the keys. But if you've got an on-premise system, you want to make sure you've got some kind of encryption in place, especially for mobile devices and laptops, which can get lost quite easily if people are taking them home at night, for example. Monitor your DNS environment. So all of your enterprise services, these are supporting services for your main application. So your DNS, your email server, your DHCP services, all of the supporting infrastructure, you want to be monitoring that. And DNS is one that's usually fairly exposed because it provides access, resolution to IP addresses to the outside world for any public-facing websites we have. So the DNS server is kind of exposed a little bit. So that's something we want to keep an eye on. And then implement a security information system to keep track of alerts that come up and how you're responding to those alerts. And that's a SIEM system effectively. So you want to put that in place. System protection. So making sure that our operating systems are automatically updated, making sure that we're using strong passwords and strong password processes. Absolutely enforce multi-factor authentication. I've had personally cases where Rogers has called me and said, "Mr. Villeneuve, are you on the phone trying to get us to change your email password and you don't have your PIN number?" And this was when I was using Rogers email a lot. They don't have MFA. I mean, neither does Bell Canada. So use for your personal emails, use an email environment that actually supports MFA. And then in the Office organization, MFA should be mandatory for all admin users or all users that have admin privileges. And some organizations are even going as far now as enforcing multi-factor authentication for everyone in the organization. Yes, it costs money, but it's one way of making your organization that much more secure. There's not a week that goes by that I don't get a text message or an email saying, are you trying to change your account information? Are you trying to reset your password? Because anybody can go to LinkedIn, for example, put in your email and go, "I forgot my password," right? So it's a really solid way of enhancing your cybersecurity protection. So if you've got the opportunity to enforce multi-factor authentication, do so. It's well worth the effort. Dedicated workstations for administration accounts. You shouldn't have administrators logging in, both as their regular user account and then their admin user account. So that's that separation of duties. Principal and least privilege I mentioned. People should only have permissions to do what they need to do at the time they need to do it effectively. And then manage mobile devices so that, in the event they get lost, you can wipe them out. More system protection here, allowing applications, what applications are allowed in the environment. We should have this allow listing so that if somebody tries to run an application, say from a USB stick, that it's not in the list, so you can't run it. Implement incident response plan. This is fairly straightforward, and you should practice your incident response plan. There's years ago for export development, I actually helped them implement a spreadsheet, which was basically, who do I contact in the event that I have an incident? Where are my backups? So I can get them. What are my admin passwords so that, if I'm not available, the other person that's responsible for this can get access to what they need to do to do a restore. Just very simple things. But if you don't have a plan in place and then you have an incident, it's a lot harder to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do first, right? And usually when there's these incidents, people's stress level goes through the roof. And so it's much better to have a plan of attack so you can just follow the checklist. Okay, first I need to do this, and then I need to do that, so that you're not kind of making it up as you go along and causing more problems in the process. I've been working in this business for 40 years now, since '82 when Microsoft first started. I have literally seen two people break down and literally start crying and have a nervous breakdown. One of them left the industry altogether, and another one had to be on 6 months leave. And that was when their backups didn't work. They weren't periodically testing the backups, and when they needed them, they didn't work. So test your backups periodically and make sure that you're validating that they are being tested if you're not responsible for that area. Third-party applications, make sure they're secure. You don't want to bring a Trojan horse into your organization. This is effectively what I'm doing now for the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. We are assessing, for example, open text to make sure that if any of our government departments are using the cloud version of OpenText, that OpenText is putting the right security controls in place. And we do that before we put them in the government marketplace. And then the thing that's really starting to happen a lot now, and it's starting to take some traction, is categorizing your assets so that you can implement data loss prevention solutions to prevent data from being lost. User education, I can't stress it enough. Awareness training. You need to provide your people with knowledge about, spear phishing attacks and how to identify them, who to notify in the event that such an attack should take place. This is critical. To me, this is the least expensive thing any organization can do to elevate their security posture. It doesn't cost a lot of money to do awareness training. And I don't know why, but in CMMC, awareness training is not even part of level 1 certification. It only gets into play when you're at level 2. I think it should be part of level 1. I think it's the first thing that any organization should do, is they should provide everyone in the organization with proper tailored cybersecurity training so that they're more aware of a potential phishing attack when one arrives in their email box. Now, there are what we call security frameworks. These are practices that we can put in place that are made up of security controls. So a security control is the software or the system is using strong passwords. They're using encryption. They are implementing the principle of least privilege. Administrator accounts cannot be shared. Those are just a few examples of the security control. And then what we have to do is we have to go to look at are you doing it? Have you documented it? Are you managing the process? So that we can see you've actually implemented policies and procedures that basically instantiate the security control in question, okay? So some of these frameworks are covered under NIST, the National Institute for Security Frameworks, and they do quite a bit of, there's NIST 853, NIST 800-171, NIST 837, which is the risk management framework. They have a number of these security frameworks that you can, and practices that you can start to apply. And they're all very well documented. NIST is probably one of my favorite ones until CMMC came along. ISO and more European standard is the ISO 27001, which is, again, an operational security framework. FedRAMP out of the US is used to evaluate CSPs, cloud service providers, and also software as a service solution providers to make sure that they are applying the security controls that they need to apply. And then the recent one that's come out is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. It's based on NIST 800-171, which is when an organization is using software that is run effectively on somebody else's computer, right? So this is using a cloud service provider, using a SaaS solution provider. But the big difference is, even though it follows the NIST 800-171 model or security framework, with CMMC, the US Department of Defense is putting it in place such that you need to prove that you're doing this in order to be able to participate in government contracts in the US. And in Canada, we're starting to implement the Canadian program for cybersecurity certification. That's going to be our CMMC equivalent for D&D contractors. But if you're a subcontractor for a US prime contractor, you're going to have to achieve this certification as well, as I mentioned, if you want to participate in, continue to participate in government contracts. And that's going to happen within the next year and a bit, right? So it is coming, and those organizations that start sooner than later will have a much better chance of ensuring that they don't lose contracts and lose revenue. ITSG 33 is our Canadian equivalent of the NIST 853 standard. And that's what we apply when we are doing assessments of systems. And depending on the size and scope of the system, the Treasury Board will insist that you go through an ITSG 33 assessment before you make that application or solution live. There's some other ones there that you can check out. CCCS is the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity. They've got a number of certification processes you can go through as well. And then there's, of course, there's the payment card industry. So there's lots of guidance out there, right? That's what ITSG 33 is for government departments. It's effectively, if you're going to implement a certification, if you're going to implement a solution, rather, you need to go through the ITSG 33 guidance to make sure it is secure before you start to use it in production. Why should organizations get certified? A, to participate in contracts, protect your intellectual property, and most importantly, protect your people. Because again, like I said, I would feel really bad as a business owner if one of my staff were to click on a link that literally took down the organization. I'd feel bad for that person, and I know they would, really feel bad as well. So that's why we do awareness training. So there's any doubt, they call the help desk, and the help desk comes and reviews the email beforehand to ensure it's proper. So I talked about CMMC and CPCSC, the Canadian version of CMMC, and it is going to have a huge impact on the defense industrial base and all the contractors that participate in those RFPs and contracts for both the US Defense Department and the Canadian Defense Department. So it's definitely something that if you are a defense contractor, it's not an option. that you're going to have. If you're going to participate in these contracts, you're going to have to get certified. Now, there's 7 agencies that are currently involved in putting this in place. And the government has recognized that, cybersecurity threats are becoming more and more prevalent all the time. And so they're making the investment to ensure that our departments and agencies and private sector companies and public sector companies are much better at institutionalizing cybersecurity so that we have better defenses. So it's the U.S. launched CMMC first. This started in 2019. I became a CMMC certified provisional assessor and instructor in 2020, and then upgraded to level 2 or CMMC version 2 when it came out in 2021. And I believed at the time, the reason I got involved back then was I believed at the time that this was coming to Canada. There was no question about it. And of course, last May, the announcement of the Canadian Program for Cybersecurity Certification was indeed announced. And they're working at it very fast so that the Canadian program is released at the same time and made official at the same time the US one is. And the whole goal here is to ensure that our program is reciprocal with CMMC. So that if you get certified in Canada, that will be accepted by US prime contractors. Okay, that's the main goal of the program. There's 3 levels of certification that we go through. Level 1 is the easiest one to do. There are effectively 17 security control practices that you have to make sure you're adhering to. So it is the best place to start. It is somewhat of a new cybersecurity standard from a compliance perspective, but it is based on a very solid security framework, which is NIST 800-171, which includes doing risk assessments to ensure that once your security controls are in place, do they, address any outstanding risk we have? And most importantly, organizations are going to have to pay to be accredited by a third-party organization that's independent, just like a publicly traded company has to have their financials audited. Okay. Here are the CMMC levels. The CPCSC program in Canada is going to have the exact same 3 levels, but instead of pointing to US-based legal regulation and policies, it's going to point to Canadian legal laws, regulations, and policies. Okay, so that's being worked on as we speak. So this is what the CMMC model looks like. Again, there's only been a couple of presentations on the Canadian implementation, but they've made it very clear it is going to mirror the US implementation. So I would suggest to organizations today, start doing a level 1 assessment. And that's something you can do internal. You don't have to hire a third-party assessor. You can do that internally. All the documentation is available that your people can download and start to go through this process of assessing the 17 practices to ensure that you have the proper, that you're doing it and that ideally you've documented it as well. But at level 1, it's really, are you performing the 17 practices? So show me, basically. Level 2, 110 practices, and then level 3 is 110 plus another 20, depending on what the contracting authority wants to see implemented in terms of security to protect federal contract information and classified uncontrolled information, right? And we have some equivalents of that in Canada. Level 1, so this just talks about the different domains, security domains. So a domain has practices within it. And this here adds up for level 1. There's 6 domains and 17 practices that you have to demonstrate that you are actually doing. That's my timer here. Hold on, stop it. Sorry about that, folks. Let me just get rid of this. I made sure that my phone was turned off, but I had the timer set for 40 minutes. So finish up these slides here and then we'll open it up to questions, okay?
Yeah, we're doing well for time, so no worries at all.
Okay, good. So you can go through on your own with your people and do a level 1 assessment internally. And one of the things I like about CMMC is the documentation that they provide you and the procedures and guidelines are very English-like. They're a lot less technical than the NIST security framework they've evolved from effectively. So if you've got IT people in your organization, it's very doable. If you're, a small manufacturer of nuts and bolts, right, and you don't really have IT people per se, then there are registered practitioners who have been trained in the CMMC approach. There are CMMC certified professionals who can help as well. And then there's CMMC certified assessors who also understand the whole CMMC process. And as I mentioned, it's a good place to start with CMMC because all the documentation is available. And eventually with the Canadian program for cybersecurity certification that is evolving very quickly, they will have their documentation and guidelines as well. Reciprocity will say they're pretty much the same. Okay, so if you apply the CMMC approach today, you're going to easily fit into the level 1 for the CPCSC program because the practices have to be the same in order for them to be accepted by US prime contractors, right? So in the slide deck, I've got links to the CMMC level 1 assessment. There's the overview, the guide, the scoping, and self-assessment Excel workbook to help your people go through the process. And then CPC, as I mentioned, CPC CSC will be effectively the same. So it is reciprocal. And so getting started today with CMMC will give you a good jump on everyone else. I've also included some helpful resources. Certainly the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, excellent resource. And I don't say that just because I consult for them. They really make it as easy as possible to give you the tools that you require, whether you're an individual, a small business, a large organization, a government department, or a university, college, school system. So definitely check out their website. I put some of the helpful resources here, Cybersecurity for Hygiene from the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, resources for small and medium organizations. There's some certification tools and templates there. And one of the ones I also like that I thought was pretty neat was the Canadian Bankers Association Cybersecurity Toolkit. But for those of you who are defense contractors, CMMC/CPCSC is going to continue to become more critically important to you as we get closer to those 2 programs being made official, which is scheduled to happen near the end of 2024, as early as 2025. New contracts that come out from US DoD and from D&D will require you to be certified. And I know in some cases, some of the prime contractors out of the US have already told the subcontractors in Canada that they need to start doing this right now. So it is happening. It is a thing. And if you take anything away from this presentation today as a defense contractor, this is something you should start working on sooner than later. So I really appreciate your time again. Certainly the floor is open to questions. I will say if you're looking to get a hold of me and ask any questions, please pass that through Anu over at the Canadian Commercial Corporation, and they'll kind of gather them together and eventually forward them to me, and I can certainly respond to them. I'd be happy to do that. I'm very passionate about helping organizations elevate their security posture, and it would be my pleasure to answer any more technical questions that you might have after this session. Okay.
Who will be responsible for auditing to ensure compliance? So that's both for the Canadian and the US sides. Since level 1 is in-house for companies, there may be no need, but how about level 2 and level 3?
Great question. With level 1, it is a self-assessment, right? Level 2 and 3, you have to have a certified third-party assessor do the assessment. Okay. Now, the self-assessment, what's going to happen in Canada is you'll do this level 1 self-assessment. First off, you'll go to the government portal. You'll download the forms you need to download. You'll do the assessment and you'll record the results. And then the executives of the department or the organization will have to attest by signing that they have achieved level 1. Now, this is very important because you don't want to get caught in a False Claims Act, right? You will then take that attestation and all the relevant documentation and you will upload it back to the government department portal, where someone at the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, or rather the CPCSC program, will look at your documentation, will look at the attestation, and then they will give you a level 1 certification. Okay. If you're doing a level 2 certification, then you will need to bring in a third-party assessor to assess your 110 practices. They will go to the portal. They will download all the forms and templates required. They will do the assessment. They will document the assessment results. They will deliver those assessment results to you, and then they will take that package and upload it to the portal. Government will look at it and then issue you your level 2 certification. A level 3 certification, the government will actually be involved in oversight over the third-party assessor that you select. And in fact, depending on the contract, there may be a select group of 3 PAOs that you would have to choose from. And then the government will have oversight to make sure that the 3 PAO is doing the process properly to their satisfaction. So they'll have more participation in a level 2 assessment than they would with a level 3 assessment than they would with a level 2. That's how it's working in the US, or it's going to work in the US. And because the Canadian program is going to be reciprocal, I assume it's going to work the same way as well.
Great. Are you able to provide sort of a ballpark figure or some guidance on how much it costs to get this guidance or have someone come in to do an assessment?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I mentioned earlier, security costs money, right?
Yeah.
So I have some numbers for FedRAMP. CMMC is still relatively new, but I do have some time frames in that a level 1 assessment should take anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks for one individual to do, right? A level 2 and 3 assessment, you're looking more at maybe 3 months to 6 months, potentially, depending on the scope of the boundary that you are assessing, right? If you've got 100 servers and 100 services to assess, that's a lot different than having 10 servers and 10 services to assess, right? So it depends a lot on the scope of the assessment. So that's in terms of time to do a CMMC, level 1 versus a level 2, level 3 assessment. In terms of cost of doing a FedRAMP assessment, which is, I think, 150 controls, that you're talking about $150,000, anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 to do those higher level, medium to high security FedRAMP assessments, as an example. And as more and more CMMC assessments are done and more CPCSC assessments are done, we'll have a much better ballpark of what the baseline average cost is. But I would suggest to you that if you have IT staff that have, a reasonable amount of experience in IT and, putting security in place for the IT systems they're responsible for and for maintaining security, they should be able to do a level 1 assessment because they know what they're working with. And then it's just a matter of looking at the control definition and looking to see if you're putting the right, if you're performing the right actions and you've documented what you're doing. And in fact, even at level 1, documentation is not required. I'd still suggest you have documentation like policies and procedures. I mean, that pretty much goes without saying, even if you weren't getting certified. So hopefully that gives you some kind of idea.
Perfect. So you've actually hit on one of the questions I had, is that if organizations wanted to invest in their own internal cybersecurity experts, so not
Yeah.
necessarily the higher levels, but at least have an internal resource
Yeah.
that has some familiarity, is there some suggested trainings that you, or courses or anything
Yeah.
like that, that you suggest these folks take so that they are available internally to make sure that the right things are happening?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And certainly having somebody who is CMMC certified and eventually CPCSC certified internally within the organization, when you do a level one assessment and that level one assessment goes up to the portal where you need to submit it after attesting to the fact that you meet the requirements. If the person doing the assessment had their CMMC certified professional certification designation, certainly that's going to add more credibility to the information that you provided to them. I personally am a CMMC instructor. I teach for Learning Tree International here in Canada and in the US. I've delivered a number of CMMC certified professional courses, and that would be the first place to start. There is also a lower level, which is called the registered practitioner, which you can do by simply going to the cyberab.org website. You can register there. I think to register to be a member is about $250. And then you can sign up for the registered practitioner training, which I believe is about $900 Canadian. And it takes about a day to go through the training. And then there is a 100 question exam that you can go through, and it's all on demand, right? Whereas the CCP, you can do instructor-led training, and it's anywhere from, I've seen 3 days of 10 hours, brutal 10 hours a day, to a 4-day version and a 5-day version of the same course, depending on the learning provider that you go through. So that would be the first place to start, to gain internal knowledge of what are the requirements to do a CMMC level 1 assessment, what's the process to do the assessment, and so on. So there is lots of training out there, and that's been provided by the Cyber AB, and I'm sure what we'll be doing here in Canada is basically creating the Canadian version of that courseware. But again, for the program to be accepted by the U.S. Defense Department, it's going to have to be reciprocal to what the U.S. program is all about.
Very good. So another question that has come in, which was one of my questions, is where can people go to find a list of approved assessors?
Oh, excellent question. Yeah, the cyberab.org has a marketplace. And so when you go to cyberab, alphabravo.org, up in the menu, you can see marketplace, and anybody can access this. You don't have to, it's publicly available. So if you go in there and you search for my name, you'll find me. You'll find my profile card there. But you can search for C3PAOs. You can search for certified assessors, certified CMMC certified professionals, everybody that's part of the CMMC ecosystem, regardless of what country they're in, right? Because these defense contractors are in many, many different countries. There's 100,000 base contractors, and then there's another 200,000 support contractors that support these 100,000 main U.S. primes effectively. So you can find them there. So if you're in Canada, you'd find me there. If you're in Taiwan, you'd find somebody from Taiwan, for example, right? So that's the cyberab.org. Click on the marketplace. The whole directory is there. And we'll have the Canadian Standards Council, or the Standards Council of Canada, is currently working on implementing the CPCSC standard. They're one of the 7 agencies that are participating in that program launch. They will have a similar portal to cyberab.org, where you can find out all of the information about the program, the Canadian version of the program, who's been certified in it. One of the big questions I have is, for obvious self-interest reasons, is now that I'm CMMC certified, am I going to be grandfathered into the Canadian program, or am I going to have to do this all over again? So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens there.
Very good. So here's another question about timing. So one person is asking, do they need to have all these certifications in advance before starting to work with the DoD,
You
or
can
is it? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can see where this question is going. You can bid on a contract, even though you don't have certification. But if you win the contract, you can't start working, and you certainly can't start billing until you have your certification. So if you're going to take the time and effort and investment to bid on a contract, it would be a really good idea to, in parallel, go through a level 1 assessment at a minimum, and formally submit that to CMMC, even though you're a Canadian company, right? So that you could say we met within this program. And then eventually, as CPCSC comes along, hopefully again, there's going to be some grandfathering that takes place, or grandmothering, I guess, or whatever, that takes place there, such that you don't have to redo the whole Canadian program all over again. I'm sure there will be some transition capability just to make it easier for companies that got certified up front under the CMMC program, but we shall see, right?
Arnold, great presentation. I learned a lot. I hope that our audience also learned many things. I think your checklists were fabulous. I'd like to thank everybody who attended today's session and those who asked questions. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the CCC, we wish you happy holidays, and we look forward to seeing you in 2024.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.